We have a reputation to protect here, and I want you to know that I take it very seriously. I know some people think it's a joke and kind of a goof, but it's not. It's hard to come up with new ways to screw things up, and or at the very least, new ways for. I don't want to say I've screwed things up in a new way every single time we've done this, but certainly every single time we've done this, I've been surprised by some way it was screwed up. So I think that's the spirit of the thing. So anyway, here we are, just me and 50 of my closest friends, talking about what's going on in the world and soaking up the freedom. So anyway, it's good to be here. Hi everybody. Let's see, a couple of little things. First of all, I just love that Weird Al song. I just love it. I'm not a huge Weird Al fan, but I really like that song, and I heard it on the way in, and I thought I need to run that definitely. You know, a lot of times this is a lot of back in the good old days on this show. It's kind of a nostalgia trip for all of us, I guess. But I was listening to, by the way, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I know I'm sorry about that big mystery, but if you get to see the show live, we get to play some music, some really different kind of music before we go on the air and record it, and love to play it on the YouTube version, but then we get flagged and all the rest of it. But anyway, we get to play some fun stuff before we go on live here. And today we were playing Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota, Weird Al Yankovic ballad, which sounds an awful lot like the record, the Edmund Fitzgerald. And I have to tell you, I know Weird Al is kidding, and I'm kind of kidding, but I really think that song is just great. There's just so much in there, and as I was saying, this is kind of a nostalgia trip. But many times when I say this, it's not like, oh, you kids today, you with your Ubers everywhere and stuff. It's not so much that I, that I resent the Uber thing. Uber's awesome, or whatever you're using to get around. It's these electric scooters now here in LA. But whatever you're using is great. I actually just regret. I think I feel sorry for people that didn't have the road trip experience, and they never will. They never will. And when I say they never will, what I mean by that is, first of all, they never will. But the reason they'll never have the road trip experience is not because they won't take road trips, although that seems more and more unlikely. The reason they'll never have the road trip experience is that they'll have mobile devices with them. So they'll never be bored. They'll always be able to do something. They'll be listening to music, or they'll be watching their favorite movies, or they'll be checking whatever. At the very least, they'll be doing what we used to do in the back seat, screaming, "Are we there yet?" And they won't even have to do that. They'll just be able to look at exactly where we are. They'll know to a meter where we are. And I think it's kind of a shame, We've done. I've done a bunch of road trips in my life, and I've done teenager road trips with friends. But the family road trip is an American experience, and it's all part of that common culture that it seems to be just kind of evaporating. It's not so much being wiped out. It's just, and this is the thing. See, this is kind of the point. It's not like there's a common experience that we all had, and it's being replaced by a common experience that they have. I guess maybe you could make the case that it is, but if you listen to the song we were playing, which is Weird Al Yankovic's Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota, it's a ballad. It's almost 7 minutes long. There's just so much in there that is, I think, is just kind of important, First of all, there's a line in the song, and I don't know the song super well. It's not like I just have it memorized or anything, but I do remember a couple things in there. My favorite line is "Next stop, Twine Ball," I think. But there's just something. He says that they're standing in front of the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota. And by the way, of our entire audience, our live audience, which is here pretty much every week, the esteemed Dave Big Booty, or Big Booty, as the case may be, is always the one doing our mission control countdown. And now we find out, to my utter amazement and just sheer envy, he's actually seen the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota. And I've seen pictures of it, but I've never seen the twine ball itself in all of its magnificent majesty and so on. But there's a line there where Weird Al with the family there is looking at the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota, and he says, "Kids, this is what America's all about." And I don't know why I find that so true, but it is. Get all kinds of weird thoughts. I was driving in listening to this song, and I thought, first of all, they don't do road trips in Europe, certainly not in the way that we think of them. You can pretty much cross Europe in the amount of time it takes to go from one rest stop on the interstate to the other. Hillary's the biggest ball of wine in New York. Well played, Steve Darrow. When he says this is what America's all about, it really kind of is. I was thinking if you're driving through Europe and you decided to stop and see things, you might see something like, a cathedral, or you might be able to see the Shroud of Turin, or the Somme battlefield, or, this is where, Chaucer wrote Canterbury Tales, or here's the church where, Luther, nailed his theses to the wall and all that. And it's like, it's just so much history there. And this country is so big and so, and new. It's so big and so new that, that you kind of have to make your own, you have to make your own history. And growing up in Florida, which I will, and I'm ready to go to the plate on this one. I maintain, and I will defend this to the death until somebody can provide me with actual physical evidence, not just video evidence. But I maintain that Florida is, by a mile, the most boring state in the union to drive through. Now, I know people are going to come and try and make a case for Kansas, but I'm telling you, Florida's got it. It is as flat as an ironing board, and the Florida Turnpike goes 20 miles, then it cranks 15 degrees to the left, goes another 20 miles, cranks 15 to the right, and goes another 20 miles. I'll talk about my little patch here in a minute. And there's nothing there, except for, I'm trying to remember some of the ones that we had in Florida. Citrus Tower, I remember, was this gigantic, enormous tower. It's out in the middle of an orange grove. I think it's called Citrus Tower. You just drive. You're already driving, and you're already tired, and you go another 20 minutes or half an hour off, and you can get on the top of this building and go way up high in this, 40, 50, 60-foot tower or whatever it is, and you get to see everything around, which is orange trees. And what was there? There was it Crystal Springs? It was the giant water skiing, water park, mermaids kind of thing, and most of them were gone by the time I left Florida. That was '88. But back in Miami, they had things like Serpentarium, and what was that? What was that place with all the parrots? Might have been called Parrot Kingdom for all I know. In any event, it's just an experience to see these things, and there was something just so kind of clean about it, just good-hearted. Like it's almost like a lemonade stand for adults, Well, Grandpa spent his entire life not talking to his kids or his wife. All he was doing was out in the garage there, bumming string off of people, and now he's wound the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota, which by the way, is awesome, because it's not the biggest ball of twine in the world. It's not even the biggest ball of twine in America. It's just the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota, which is what is super, super, super great about that. And that whole roadside culture is largely gone. I know that the interstates drove a lot of it away. My wife and I had a chance to drive up to Vegas several times, and one or two exits we try to stop, which is where I-15 intersects Route 66. And there's some very, 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 very bizarre little things right there. But Route 66, I tried to explain to her, is it's just a highway, strip of highway, and every 10, 20 miles or whatever, you'd come to a new town. And then basically all of the east-western traffic of the United States is on this road. And everybody was doing everything they could to rope people in. Now there's an absolute master of this, and I haven't seen him as much as I would like lately. I remember back in the golden days of blogging, I used to read his stuff every day. But it's James Lilacs. If you've never heard of James Lilacs, he is a commentator and stuff. But he has something, I'm sure it's still there, called the Institute of Official Cheer, and it is nothing but Americana. It's just all the different stuff from like our living past. It's a giant memory box for people who are right about our age, my age, which is frickin' 60. Unbelievable. But the Institute of Official Cheer is just absolutely brilliant. Stoutcat says he's the Mark Twain of the 21st century. I couldn't agree more. He's just really great. So if you go there, I cannot recommend it highly enough. I think it's at Lilacs, LILEKS.com, the Institute of Official Cheer. And there you will find things like a collection of matchboxes, not matchboxes, of matches that that salesmen used to sell. They go around the country, these guys, and they would go to Tony's restaurant, and they say, what you need, Tony? You need a book of matches with your slogan on the back and so on. So there's all of these things, and Lilacs is such a great writer. He writes the thing out as if he was the salesman trying to make the next sale, shows this incredible collection. And the two things that are the most memorable on the Institute of Official Cheer are books. One of them's a book that he wrote called the what is it, it's what is it? It's not the cookbook. It's the I guess it's the gallery of regrettable food. There it is. Somebody, Rubber City just beat me to it. The Gallery of Regrettable Food. It is. You just have to go and see. Seriously, you take my word for it. You have to go and see the Gallery of Regrettable Food at the Institute of Official Cheer at lilacs.com, because the Gallery of Regrettable Food is a collection of photographs that are actual photographs taken from people like Kraft and and Cheese Whiz and all of these things designed to create delicious recipes for you to put so that you can put some sour cream into your olive loaf. And honest to God, there is stuff in the Gallery of Regrettable Food that was sold to the American people and is just the most, just visually, you're not tasting anything, just looking at it, just visually is the most repellent stuff I've ever seen. It makes like the aliens, the eggs from Aliens or the pods from Invasion of the Body Snatchers look like chocolates, like bon mots. Some of this stuff is simply unbelievably disgusting. It's absolutely horrible. But the one thing that I liked the most by far at the Institute of Official Cheer was a tour of the Gobbler, which was a motel in Minnesota. And it was built at a time, it's just not describable. I just cannot recommend it highly enough. It is an elaborate and detailed photo spread of a motel in Minnesota called the Gobbler. And it was probably built in either very late 50s or early 60s, and it was trying to be the coolest place ever. And so was it Wisconsin? I'm sorry, Dave Big Booty is our expert here. I thought it was in Minnesota, but it's not. It's in Wisconsin. The Gobbler was a kind of place where they would shag carpeting was just coming in. So the hallway would be electric blue shag carpeting with shag, this long. And the shag carpeting would be all the way across the hallway on the floor and all the way up the walls. And the dining room and his commentary on the faces of the people and what they were thinking, because the brochure for the Gobbler is simply otherworldly. And our there's a video. Who knew? Or maybe it's just a link. Anyway, it's just tremendous. And what I'm saying is that there's just something, like I said, there's something like these roadside attractions. Ian Little says, carpets on the walls of the 60s were crazier than I thought. Dude, you won't believe your eyes. You won't believe your eyes. It is the most... that section, the section on the Gobbler, it's been torn down, Simon, I think. But it's almost like every single photograph is the dictionary definition of tacky. It's the only word for it. If it's the same Gobbler, I can't believe it's remodeled. If it's the same Gobbler, surely they're not going to have it look the same. Because if it is, I'm going to Wisconsin to see the Gobbler. But anyway, you can see it at the Lilac site, and it is in every way just unbearably bad taste. I mean, it's just you can't get to the Gobbler from having bad taste. You have to have a design genius who's one of those once in a lifetime people that have anti-taste. They have a genuine vision and a talent for things that are offensive to the eye, and it's incredible. But again, it was out there trying to rope some roadside business, and I really have always liked. All right, there's a dare now. He's sending me a link to the Gobbler Theater. I just got to see if this is right. I don't know. Let me see. Is there anything on the venue here? Could be. No, I don't think so. No, I'm pretty sure that's not it. I'm pretty sure that's not it. There is certainly a theater called the Gobbler Theater, but I don't think that's it, unless it was at the same spot. It doesn't really matter. In any event, it was just so tacky, and at the same time, and this is the part I'm trying to get at, it's a hard point to make. It's so tacky, and things like the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota. The left just mocks this. This is the definition of oikophobia, fear of the familiar. Every single person that you are ever going to see on television and all the rest of it. Okay, Simon says that is it. It's renovated, but it's lost its charm. It was probably just at the same spot. Go to the Lilacs link, and it's here in the chat section. I'm sure we'll find it. LILEKS.com, Institute of Official Cheer, the Gobbler. But there's something just obviously so American about it, and these New York intellectuals and LA intellectuals and all of these highbrow, geniuses that are moral betters and intellectual betters too. Let's not forget. Just look on this with real, genuine venom, because for many, many people like that, they look at something like the Gobbler or the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota, and they see it as this indictment of just how cheesy and tacky and culture-free America is. And all of these things on some level are true, but they don't seem to get the beauty of it. I can't put my finger on what it is. Just the entrepreneurial, family-run, kind of almost Barnum-esque kind of, boosterism. And with I have not seen any exceptions, but none of them were selling something that wasn't there. I mean, you're going to the There's a house where supposedly things go uphill, and there's something I think in Arizona called or New Mexico called the Thing. Have you seen the Thing? And then the billboards start 150 miles out, and then you just keep getting closer and closer. The Thing is waiting. There's a rest stop, and I want to say it's between either Georgia and South Carolina or South Carolina and North Carolina on I-95, and it is called South of the Border, and about 200 miles out, over an hour away, at least that. Yep, there we go. Lord Bio sees it. So at least an hour away, you start seeing these billboards, and they were witty billboards. I forget what they said, but they were clever. And they've got this kind of cartoon, kind of Mexican sleeping with his sombrero. I'm sure that's going to be ripped down too, in just a minute or two. So you're by the time you get close, you're just vibrating. I mean, you gotta see it. You can't. How can you not stop and see it? I'm sorry. I'm going to center up a little bit here. That's a little better. And it's really nothing there, except for the advertisement of itself. As I said, Natasha and I have stopped at this place on Route 66 where Route 66 intersects I-15, and it is a giant mini mall. It's not even a mini mall. I can't describe it. It's like, imagine you took a railway car and cut a hole in the side of it and attached it to a Quonset hut, and then down on the other end was kind of a container build. It is just the most freaky place you've ever seen. And you put 25 cents in this thing. It's a box. And then the top starts shaking, and you hear a person in there trying to get out. That's it. There's your quarter or 50 cents or whatever it is. And it's surreal. It's surreal. But it's also very cool. And that's what I like the most, I think, about that song. Because I really do think that if you listen to The Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota, which if you come late to the party was what we played for our walk-in music today, if you listen to that song, you'll tell that Weird Al Yankovic is certainly making fun of it, but he also loves it. You can tell he loves it. He loves it and he respects it. He's sending it up, but he does. And then those car trips, they're just a little part of a window of history. Probably existed from the 50s to the 70s, maybe a little later, and they're gone. And it's just something I grew up with, and some of you grew up with, and so many jokes that we get to share as a generation really don't make any sense to people who came before or after it. The biggest one, of course, is the "Are we there yet?" You're going on a road trip, 4-hour drive, 8-hour drive, 10-hour drive, whatever. And if you're 5-6 years old and you're sitting in the back seat of a Mercury Marquis station wagon with, Woody on the side, 1968 thing, there's a hood the size of an aircraft carrier deck, and you would just drive and drive and drive in the middle of nowhere. There's no radio, and there's no way you could find radio that the family would agree on anyway, and there's simply nothing to do. And after a while, you get tired of talking, and then you start to invent things to do. You start playing the license plate game, and you start singing the 99 bottles of beer on the wall, which will drive absolute. That song would drive somebody with the sobriety of Clarence Thomas or somebody like that, would drive them to madness. And I don't think it would take very long. 20 questions, yes, and all of those awesome riddles, which I used to love. I loved them. Those great riddles. My favorite of which was a guy is inspecting. He's got a huge ranch in Texas. He leaves on a Sunday, and he comes back in 5 days, also, he leaves on Sunday, he's gone 5 days, and he comes back on Sunday. And we're sitting there in this car with my planetarium friends trying to figure this one out. And we're thinking, okay, well, has it got something to do with the international dateline? Maybe, if the guy was up, let's just say, let's just say he drove up. If he rode up to the North Pole and he went around what? How you're just trying to figure out this thing, and then as Loyola says, it's like turns out that the name of the horse was Sunday. He leaves on Sunday, he comes back on Sunday, and when you get it, you're just it's so much fun. It's so cool because you can kill hours and hours and hours that way by trying to figure it out, try to get to it. Another one I remember was a man gets on a man lives in a high-rise apartment building. He lives on the 20th floor. On clear days, he gets off at the 10th floor, but on rainy days, he goes all the way up to the 20th floor. What's going on? Turns out the guy is a midget, and he can only reach the 10th floor button, but on rainy days, he has his umbrella with him, so he can hit the 20th floor button. It's just cool. I don't know. I just love it. Anyway, I just thought I'd go a little bit back there for the old road trip thing, so that was kind of fun. Let's see.